Hi there. My name is Gage, and since you're here, well, I guess might as well just teach you a few things about your instrument. The first thing we're going to be looking at today is going to be your instrument case. Now, when you open this up, each one will have its own different way of storing things. Mine has the mouthpiece in the corner, the instrument laid down flat in the middle, and then it also has a small space back here for anything that you need to store to maintain or play your instrument. This may include devices used to clean the inside of your instrument, additional mouthpieces, as well as anything else that you might need to maintain your instrument. The next part we're going to be looking at is the assembly of the instrument. Once you take your instrument out of your case, you're going to have the trumpet and the mouthpiece. To assemble your trumpet, you're going to take the main instrument and the mouthpiece. You'll move the end of the mouthpiece around until you make sure it is secure inside of the opening, and then you will turn quarter turn to ensure that the mouthpiece is inside the instrument securely. To disassemble the instrument, you're going to grip the mouthpiece, quarter turn the opposite way that you turned it in, and pull out. An issue that many people have is that they may have turned it in too tight. You're just going to want to keep turning and slightly pulling away from the base of the instrument, the lead pipe, until the mouthpiece comes out. As you can see, the trumpet has a variety of different components. These are the valves. They go all the way down, and they also screw out. Each one of these is called a slide. Now, each one of these you can pull out or pull back in to change the length of the trumpet to where the air going through will take slightly longer to go through the entire instrument, therefore changing the intonation of the note that you might be playing. This slide goes to the first valve, this slide goes to the second valve, this slide to the third valve, and this slide is a main tuning slide for the entire instrument. Here, you can see each individual valve outside of its casing. You'll notice that each valve has its own original set of holes. Now, if you look closely at each individual valve, they should have numbers labeled on them. 1, 2, and 3. Now this is going to correspond to each one of the valve casings. If you look over here at the trumpet, this is going to be your first valve, your second valve, and your third valve. And the way to figure this out is you're going to have the lead pipe facing towards you, and the pipe that has the bell on it is going to be facing towards the table or ground. Coming back to the valves themselves, if you look, each valve has a white tab. Now on one side, the tab is going to be slightly bigger than the other, and this is going to become very important when you're screwing back in your valves. What you're going to want to do is have the instrument facing the exact same way you did when you took the valves out. And you're going to ensure that the small side of the valve is going to be facing towards you when you put this inside its casing. And then you're just going to want to screw in. And then once the valve is screwed in place, you may feel that there is some movement up here. You're just going to want to move it around until it locks into place. And then once you ensure that the valve is in place, the air will successfully go through the entire instrument. Now, what would happen if you put in the valve with the big part facing upwards, then the air would get stopped because the holes would not align in the instrument as the air flows through. Coming back to the completed instrument now, you're going to see that the valves are all put in place and they will all move freely. The next thing you're going to want to do is test to see if each one of these slides can move freely, independently with each other. Now, when you're moving the slides, what you're going to want to make sure is that you press all 3 valves down, and this just ensures that air does not build up, air pressure inside the valves, and the instrument will not break. So what you're just going to want to do is make sure that each slide can move freely. And this one, the second valve, oftentimes will have problems with getting stuck inside this casing. Now what you're going to want to do is take a cloth of any kind, and you're just going to want to feed it through the little gap here and then tug gently away, facing directly in a parallel line with the casing. You're just going to want to keep tugging at the little slide here, and eventually it will come out. Another really big problem here is going to be with the mouthpiece. A lot of people may turn it in too tightly, they may jam it in with their palm, or they may drop the instrument on the mouthpiece. And what you're going to want to do if this does happen is go to your band director or your local music repair store, and they have little machines that are actually going to twist the mouthpiece and pop it out using the pressure. And that's the best way to fix that. Coming back to the slides here, this is going to be, as I mentioned earlier, your main tuning slide. And you're going to want to make sure that each one of these slides do move freely. And if not, you're going to need to use slide grease and just lightly coat around the slides individually until the slides can move freely. And sometimes you'll notice that excess slide grease will build up along the lines where the slides will close together. And what you're just going to want to do is take a paper towel or cloth of some sort and just wipe that off. Right, now we're going to be addressing the final thing that you're going to want to do to maintain the instrument properly. Is you're going to want to remove all the valves, you're going to want to remove all the slides and the mouthpiece, and you're going to want to soak the entire instrument, submerge it in warm water, and you're going to want to leave it for about a couple hours or so. Just to get all the gunk and all of the other bacteria out of the instrument. And then you're going to want to take the cleaning things that we saw earlier in the video, and those things are going to actually go through the different tubing, and they're going to act as little snakes almost. There's one for the mouthpiece, there's one for the pipes, and there's also one for the valve casings inside of here. The next thing we're going to be discussing is the don'ts of instrument, and what you're not going to want to do when placing the instrument down is facing it towards the ground with the lead pipe towards the ground like this. You're not going to want to face this down. It will end up bending your lead pipe. And what you're actually going to want to do is place it facing down, facing with the bell pipe there, just like so. Do not set your instrument down on the bell or on the mouthpiece. And please don't hang it like that. And so that's going to be the end of today's video on how to properly maintain your instrument and the don'ts of what to do when first starting out.